The All Blacks dominated all the numbers except for the ones that really mattered. That would be the scoreline, 29 points to 30, a titanic struggle at the Stade de France in Paris. France good enough to get up over New Zealand by a single solitary point. I know your heart is broken. I know you're disappointed. I feel absolutely crushed by this loss, but hang in there, All Blacks fans. This game probably offers the most lessons of any from the whole year, so stick with me as I break down the game, which does have a lot of hope for New Zealand once we get into the numbers, and let's figure out where to from here for the men in black. Let's get to it, guys. Well, the French really have a great sense of occasion. The crowd was absolutely rocking. That 9 p.m. kickoff has all of the Parisians wine drunk, and so much better for the atmosphere. Not only that, they are artistic people, the French. They lit the haka like it was a Gordon Willis movie. The All Blacks were illuminated. The field was in deep shadows around them. Absolutely beautiful, cinematic. Cody Taylor and Rieko Ioane both leading the haka. Not often, if ever, have I seen two players taking charge of leading Kapa o Panga. It was a stirring occasion. And the French, well, they were absolutely fired up. They just looked like men possessed in the first couple of minutes. I think it's that lingering disappointment from bombing out of their own Rugby World Cup last year, but they just hit the All Blacks at 1,000,000 miles an hour to start off with. And really, it was carnage right away. Samipeni Finau got a knee to the head. He staggered off at 1:30. Terrible. You never want to see that. You knew he wasn't coming back. He was absolutely out on his feet. But it did give us this silver lining. Peter Lakai now got basically 80 minutes. It's as though he started. Ardie Savea moved to 6. Wallace Atiti stayed at the boot of the scrum. And you just went, all right, here we go. The future is now. The good news for All Blacks fans, he went fantastically well. He was one of the leading lights for the All Blacks. Absolutely solid in his roles at the set piece, looked very destructive with ball in hand, and most importantly, didn't look psychologically overawed at this level. Big tick for the depth of the New Zealand loose forward mix, especially with Sam Cane going overseas after next week. Boy, that'll be the end of Sam Cane. The future's bright there, though. The All Blacks managed to get their hands on the ball after a frenetic couple of minutes, and really that was the theme of the night. Let's take a look at the possession here. The All Blacks actually dominated it, 61% to 39%. Didn't necessarily see that coming. Thought it might be a little bit more even, but the men in black, they really had the ball on a string at times, and when they played with depth, they looked absolutely terrifying. When they played flat, they did run into a lot of problems against the rush French defense. In fact, they were flat as a pancake in the first few attempts at attacking, their first few forays into French territory, and it was like running into a navy-colored buzzsaw. I mean, the defense from the French ate them up, but the All Blacks quickly adjusted and realized, oh, okay, we're really going to have to bring a bit of depth here. Now, the All Blacks scrum, which was an absolute weapon at times, did also incur a couple of penalties. In fact, Tyrell Lomax was pinged in the 6th minute. Now, the scrum went down. Normally, the ref would say, all right, reset, let's go again. He was having none of that. He immediately called a penalty for France. Ramos stepped up, kicked a 51-meter beauty, and you just realized, okay, this ref gives no Fs, and he's going to be quick to penalize any silly buggers. So we got to have our game face on here, because the French can seemingly slot penalties from 60 meters out from the sticks. I mean, this kick from Ramos had plenty on it. It cleared the bar comfortably from 51 meters, so that was a little ominous. The other thing that was ominous was the rush defense from the French. However, the All Blacks seemed to have a way around it. Let's just throw the ball past it. And this was where the selection of Cam Roigard really paid dividends. He just started firing bullet passes out to the trams, and almost an intercept, but got the ball to Ardie Savea, who was lurking out wide all night. He made incredible meters back on the inside, and eventually, after a lot of sustained pressure and multiple phases, Peter Lakai scored a try for the All Blacks. Awesome to see. And the All Blacks attack was revving up at this point. I mean, my God, did it look good with Cam Roigard running the show. And let's just take a look at this stat. Post-contact meters, 454 to 210. Like I said, the All Blacks dominate most of these numbers, just not those two, which are the ones that actually matter. But man, the men in black, they were breaking the line. The leg drive, the support play, mostly was awesome tonight, especially in the first half. In fact, the All Blacks really looked the much better team. They shut down the French rolling maul on a couple of occasions, absolutely splintered it. And the All Blacks were showing patience. They hit the blind side of the French 12, 13 times. They just kept racking up the phases, ultimately went to the well one time too many. They got turned over, and you now started to see players from both sides flying into the breakdown at unbelievable, ungodly speeds. The impacts were sickening, and it was just helter-skelter stuff, typified by the sight of loosehead prop Tamati Williams breaking through in midfield with such pace at 140 kilos that he got himself isolated. It was honestly like bizarre. Normally you'd see a midfielder running the line that he ran and breaking through clear, but no, there was the loosehead prop in acres of space, no one there to back him up. That just kind of, to me, summed up how bizarre and free-flowing this game was in the first half. But when the All Blacks tightened it up, they were looking dominant. They started to get scrum penalties. Tamati Williams was eating his opposite at scrum time. Replacement came on for France. He could get no purchase against Tamati Williams. That side of the scrum was buckling and folding all throughout the first half. Not just that, but the All Blacks line-out was totally disruptive. We picked off the ball multiple times from the French. And there was no more dominant moment from a New Zealand perspective than when we absolutely wrecked the French scrum, had the forwards wearing navy blue going backwards, so much so that they had to get a scrappy ball out just to try and salvage the situation, straight into the hands of Cam Roigard, who bobbled it and managed to score a try. Wow. And against any other team in the world, this set-piece dominance would almost certainly lead to an All Black win. But I wasn't getting ahead of myself. I just kind of went, it doesn't really matter against a team like France, because the reality is when they get into the red zone, when they start doing their pick and go, when they get that offloading game, which is the most All Blacks like of any other team, you're in trouble. And when they got down to the New Zealand 22, they were able to make meters up the middle. They ultimately scored a try in the 32nd minute. Let's not forget, guys, this is a tough one to swallow, but 3 tries to 2. They outscored us. That hurts. That hurts because we just looked like the more likely team to score. In fact, you felt that the All Blacks could run away with it in the first half, but that is not how it materialized. In the second half, the French line-out really found itself. They weren't letting the All Blacks pick them off anymore. They were very secure, and that started to turn the game around big time. Nevertheless, the All Blacks shaded them 91% on their own ball compared to 75%, so that's a big work on for the French. The problem from a Kiwi perspective is that the line-outs that really mattered, the critical ones, the French got their act together. Just want to give a shout out for this super thanks. Really helps the channel grow. Appreciate you guys so much. Let's get back to the analysis. And this is sort of where the Northern Tour for the All Blacks hit a blue wall. It was in that 50 to 60 minute mark. The All Blacks had tons of possession. They were recycling the ball well. They were racking up the phases, and yet they were going backwards. They just could not crack that French defense. Ultimately, a ball spilled out. France kicks ahead and scores a try in the 50th minute. And that was a killer blow because we'd been throwing everything at them on attack and getting nowhere. The French were more physical at times in that area around the fringes where we had them in the first half. So this was the definition of a seesaw game. It actually seemed like France was just waiting for New Zealand to make mistakes. They were happy for the Kiwis to have all this possession, to keep on racking up the phases. They felt that if they were just patient, set their line, brought the line speed on defense, the Kiwis would make an error or two. And they did. And the French just pounced on it when that happened. So basically the next 20 minutes was just trading penalties, but France mostly having their nose ahead. Ramos unerring with the boot, kicking points for his team. By this point, Damien McKenzie had come on. He went to fullback. Beauden Barrett stayed at 10. So you had Will Jordan on the wing. It was Sevu Reece who went off. But also Cortez Ratama came on. Now, even though Roigard was the best player for New Zealand today, not sure he had much more in the tank. Made sense for Ratama to come on. He did have another tough day. And he actually got penalized by the ref for not getting his box kick away quickly enough. The ref is just all over that now. Look at this Northern Tour. The refs are really coming down like a ton of bricks on players who are not box kicking quick enough, who are wasting time. Any kind of blocking or obstruction on a kick chase, that's an automatic penalty. It's probably speeding up the game. But yeah, you can certainly feel hard done by when it's your team incurring the penalties. Now the clock was really working in the favor of the French. We managed to stay close. Damien McKenzie nervously kicked his penalties. Ultimately, it was just a bridge too far. The All Blacks did have a final roll of the dice, but it was the 79th minute. We had the ball basically on our own try line. We had to go the length of the field. And guys, that's not where the game was lost. The game was already lost at that point. Recency bias makes you think, oh, if only we could have just worked a length of the field try. Very improbable against France in those circumstances. But that wasn't the losing of the game. It was the second half. It was discipline at the breakdown. It was being out-physicaled by the French. And you also have to say it was a few scrum penalties that really were quite surprising given how dominant we were in that space in the first half. But actually, the French probably shaded the scrum penalties at the end of the day. And that's just a little bit of inaccuracy. So what do we put it down to? Great French team, played out of their skins, deserved the win. And the All Blacks are rebuilding. They're almost there. They're a point off, you know. And after the heroics in Dublin last week, it was just a bridge too far to back it up again today. But what's pleasing is that the last time we were here in 2021, we went down by 15 points, a heavy defeat. This was much more like it. This showed a lot of growth from the All Blacks. Nevertheless, France have our number at the moment. They have won 3 in a row. Don't see that often. In fact, the last time that happened was 1994. But a fair result today. Who stood out for the All Blacks? Peter Lakai had a whale of a game, shows there is great depth coming through at number 7. Cam Roigard was back to his brilliant best in the first half. Damien McKenzie brought impact off the bench. There was just too much to do to peel the game back for the All Blacks. And ultimately, Barrett and Tupou Vaa'i were excellent. The line-out statistics say as much. The All Blacks really dominated so much of this game. I mean, I just keep looking at that post-contact meters. Boy, did we create opportunities. Boy, did we have a lot of ball. But we just couldn't get through that brick wall of a defense in the second half. So back to the drawing board for the All Blacks. We might just need a couple more tricks in our arsenal to get around a rush defense that heavy. And that's why I think this is a game that offers amazing learnings for the All Blacks. So close, totally could have won it, but there are instructions here on how to win in the future. There are clues in this game, things we could have done differently in the second half that I know are going to lead to All Black victories in the future. It just wasn't our day today. So full credit to the French. No sour grapes from me. A fair result. I don't think there should have been more than a point in it. Either way, no matter who won. But today belongs to Le Bleu. Congrats, guys. Time for the All Blacks to regroup, look ahead to Italy. If we can finish on a winning note, 4 out of 5 is a fantastic return for the All Blacks. So let's not count our chickens before they hatch. Still got to beat a very much improved Italian side. But in general, I feel the All Blacks are still trending in the right direction. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Keep your chins up. The All Blacks will be back. I'll catch you guys for another one real soon. Take it easy. Bye for now.